Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff MacLeod, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of the Achtung, Cthulhu 2D20 starter set from Modiphius Entertainment. This is written by John Houlihan, Nathan Dowdle, and Ben Maunder. I apologize if I've mispronounced any of those names. This box set is available now. It carries an MSRP of $40, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $20. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the starter set for Achtung, Cthulhu 2D20. A few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Modiphius Entertainment were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's very important you know that. I also shared an unboxing and first look video of the starter set. So there are some items in here I'm going to kind of gloss over. But if you want a much closer look at them, by all means, check out that first look video. I'm also not going to share each and every page of the two booklets, which are contained within, but I do want to give you a very good feel for what you're going to find inside. The second of those booklets is an adventure. So if you're a player and your game master has picked up the starter set, they just haven't run the adventure yet, or maybe they're thinking of picking this up, by all means, when we get to the adventure, which is the last thing we're going to take a peek at, I would recommend tune out then because there are going to be some spoilers. I'm going to try to stay away from major spoilers, but there will be some spoilers. And you don't want the surprises of the adventure ruined simply because you are watching this video. Now, if your game master is considering picking this up, let them know about this video. That way they can approach this and make a far more informed buying decision. All right, let's jump on in. First thing I want to mention is the interior of the box top and the box bottom, once you take the insert out, make for a game master screen. I like that. I always love when companies go that little extra mile and do this. I think the first time I ever saw something like this is with the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. I thought that was a very cool touch. We also have a bunch of tokens. So there were 2 punch boards, about, I think it's 200 tokens. And the thing I really like about these, outside of the cool artwork, is they're dual-sided, and the vast majority of these tokens have a different image on the other side. And you'll get to use these for a lot more than just the introductory adventure that's in the starter set. Very nice. We get some custom dice. So we get a couple of 20-sided dice. This is 2D20, is the system that Achtung Cthulhu uses. It is the rules system that powers the vast majority of Modiphius Entertainment role-playing games. So being 2D20, we have 2 20-sided dice. Of course, there are times where the players will be able to roll more than 2 dice, but for the most part, most of the time, when you're looking to perform some sort of action that you need to test, have to pass a test, you're going to roll 2d20. We also have some challenge dice. These are utilized in combat for damage and for cover. I will get into the details about some of the mechanics of 2d20 in just a few moments. We get 6 pre-generated characters who are designed for the introductory adventure that is included in the box. We get their attributes, their skills, talents, equipment, weapons, and artwork's pretty cool on these. Like that quite a bit. I thought a very cool little touch, the quick reference sheets. And we get 6 because the adventure is designed for 6 player characters. So each of the players will get a dual-sided quick reference sheet, which really includes everything they need to know about how to play Achtung Cthulhu 2D20. We have 3 dual-sided battle maps designed for that introductory adventure. I'll show you one of them here. So as you can see, they are paper, but the paper is treated, so it should hold up relatively well. And then we'll get into our booklets. So we've got the basic rules and the adventure. So the basic rules, about 16 pages. First of all, let's make sure we give credit where credit is due for everybody who worked on this. Do the same with the adventure when we get into that. I was going to say, one of the nice things about the basic rules here is everything is pretty much covered. Now, of course, not in the sort of detail that we get with the player guide core book, but we get plenty of information about the important rules of Achtung, Cthulhu 2D20. I like that quite a lot. Although I will say, I wish there was a bit more information about what's known as truths, and I'll talk about those in just a moment. But it's only a few paragraphs, and in my opinion, I think truths are a big deal with Achtung, Cthulhu 2D20. And I think it's probably the easiest thing for both players and game masters to kind of get tripped up with. So as far as our attributes, we've got agility, brawn, coordination, insight, reason, and will. We've got skills. We've got about a dozen skills. They are pretty broad, but you can focus in a skill. So as an example, one of the skills is engineering. You could always have automotive. We have fighting. So if you wanted to try to be a bit of a sniper character, maybe you'd have a focus on rifle and so on and so forth. Kind of give you an idea. Now, as with just about every starter set that's out there for role-playing games, there are no rules for character creation, which is a given. That's what we normally will see with starter sets. That's why we got the pre-gens. That's why we've got all the learning aspects of the introductory adventure. So I don't have an issue with it. I'm just pointing out we do not have any character creation rules. So let's talk about action resolution. So 2D20, you have your attribute, you've got your skill level, you add the two together. That is going to be your target number. And normally you roll 2 20-sided dice. There are ways for players to purchase more dice to roll. It is by using an in-game currency known as momentum. Game Master has a very similar currency to that. It's known as threat, which they can add extra dice to their NPC rolls. They can also use them to purchase truths. So the players can spend a couple of points of momentum to create a truth that favors them, whereas the Game Master can also spend 2 threats to create a truth which becomes a roadblock for the player characters. So as far as tests, what you're going to look to do is you're going to roll 2 20-sided dice, and the Game Master has already determined how many successes you need in order to achieve what you're trying to do. On average, it's 1 success. Now, if it's something relatively difficult, it could be 2 successes. It could go all the way up to 5. It can also be as low as 0, and then you don't have to roll. Now, as far as your 20-sided dice, rolling low is good. So this is rolling under. And if you roll a 1, it is a critical success. It will count as 2 successes. If you roll a 20, it is not a critical failure, but it will add a complication. So it is possible for you to have enough successes to succeed at what you're trying to do and have a complication as well because a 20 was rolled. So keep in mind, 20 is not a critical failure. So you could fail and have a complication. You could succeed and have a complication. Now, if you happen to have a focus and you roll lower than what your skill level is on a die, that will also count as 2 successes. So as an example, let's say I am trying to repair a truck engine, and I have engineering and I have automotive as a focus. And let's say my Engineering skill is a 6. And I've got a total of, let's say, 13. All right. So I've got a 13 there. That is a success. I have a 4. That is a success. And because I focus on automotive and I'm working on that truck engine, that would be 2 successes because I rolled less than 6, equal to or less than 6. So that's 3 successes right there. Let's say the game master said, I only needed 1. Well, those extra successes gain my group momentum. Momentum is that in-game currency, and it is a pool. And the most you can ever have in that pool is 6 points. So it is a currency that is designed to be spent. So is threat. So one of the ways that players can roll more dice is spend momentum. Maybe they're out of momentum, but they want to get more dice. They can actually give the game master threat to gain more dice. Once again, threat is like momentum, but it's for the game master, and it works against the players. As far as combat, same thing. So you're going to roll your dice. You're looking to achieve so many successes, be it melee combat, ranged combat. So fighting covers all of that. So it's just fighting. But as an example, you could focus and have melee, right? So hand-to-hand combat. So it just essentially means these focuses are things that the character is proficient with or proficient at. So with combat, what happens is you'll gain stress. And that is what these dice are used for, the challenge dice. They're also used when you're behind cover to see how much the cover protects you. So what'll happen is if you hit, you will have a certain number of challenge dice you're going to roll, and they're going to generate stress. And players, NPCs, monsters, so forth, have stress tracks. And you will actually have a track where you're tracking your points of stress. Now you have injuries, and player characters get 3 injuries. After they've taken 3 injuries, they are out of action. They have been defeated in that combat. Doesn't necessarily mean that they've bought the farm, but it means they've been defeated and they can't do anything else in that combat. Maybe they're broken. Maybe they've been knocked unconscious. Maybe they have been killed. Regardless, they get 3 injuries. Now, if they take 5 stress in one attack, they take an injury. If their stress track fills, they take an injury. Now, it is possible that those 2 things happened in the same attack. That would count as 2 injuries. So pretty easy. I know a lot of people are very surprised that Achtung, Cthulhu 2D20 does not have a more crunchy combat system, but at its heart, this is it. Now, of course, there is armor, there is cover, which will absorb some of that stress. So it's important to keep that in mind as well. As far as a combat round, player characters get to do a minor action and a major action. Minor action could be aiming, or if they are trying to cast a spell, they must use the prepare minor action. Then major action, attack, cast a spell, try to catch your breath, take command of NPC soldiers, create a truth. So there are quite a few different major actions that can be performed during a combat round. And then we get a little discussion about magic, and that is it for the basic rules. Now, the adventure itself, one of the things I really like a lot about Among the Wolves is that it is a teaching adventure and it is laid out as a teaching adventure. I like that quite a lot. So once again, give some credit where credit is due for folks. If you're not overly familiar with Achtung, Cthulhu 2D20 adventures, they are scene-based. They are normally broken up into acts. This has 3 acts, scenes within those acts. For the most part, Achtung, Cthulhu 2D20 adventures are linear. They're not open world. They are not sandboxy. Some will have some sandboxy aspects to them, but for the most part, they are linear. Not knocking it. I mean, the reality is most Call of Cthulhu adventures are also pretty linear. And I have been running Call of Cthulhu for over 40 years. It is my absolute favorite role-playing game. So I'm not knocking any adventures being linear. They are not necessarily railroads, though. So I do appreciate that. Now, this is going to start off on the beaches of Dunkirk before the miracle of Dunkirk has taken place. And the player characters will be tasked with holding the line against the Germans to buy some more time for those small craft to get across the channel to ferry all those soldiers. I really like that we tie into the miracle at Dunkirk. I think that's a nice touch here. Now, what'll happen is the player characters will actually be tasked with going behind enemy lines to learn more about the Black Sun. So there are a couple of Axis organizations that deal with the occult, supernatural, weird science, and it is Black Sun and Noctawolf. And actually, at the end of this adventure, they will be fighting against each other and a third entity, which is pretty cool. I like the finale to this. So the player characters will actually go behind enemy lines, and then they are going to try to knock out this Black Sun base. Eventually, they are going to learn that there is an underground hive of Migo, my absolute favorite Mythos race. And they are working on some sort of doomsday weapon. So the player characters are going to need to knock out that doomsday weapon. And all throughout the end of the adventure, there's a big running battle going on between Black Sun, Noctawolf, and the Migo. So I would say game masters out there should try to channel those James Bond set piece battles at the end of some of the old movies. You know, you only live twice. Stuff like that. Diamonds Are Forever, Dr. No. Knocking out the Moonraker base. Pretty cool. One thing I will say irritates me about this adventure is there are some just ungodly long read-alouds. There are read-alouds that are 7, 8, even 9 paragraphs in length, and those are not exceptions. Those are just examples because it happens throughout this book. And I know how players are. Players start checking out after you hit that 3rd paragraph of read aloud. And if you're doing it multiple times in a session, I don't like that at all. Now, granted, it says, oh, you can paraphrase. Okay, I get it. That's fine. Something else I really like about the adventure being a learning adventure is there are examples throughout the various different scenes where we have a GM tip saying, oh, hey, this would be a good place to introduce players to opposed tests, or this is combat, or here's an example of combat. I really like that quite a bit. We wrap up with some handouts, really nice looking handouts there, and some ads. The adventure itself is about 58 pages in length. I would think if you're playing, say, 4-hour sessions, you're probably going to get 4 sessions or more out of this adventure. There is quite a bit going on in Among the Wolves. All right, so that is a look at the starter set for Achtung Cthulhu 2D20. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. I gotta say, I really do like the starter set for Achtung Cthulhu 2D20. I think Modiphius Entertainment has put together a really nice set. Okay, I do have some quibbles with it. One with the adventure having just really long read-alouds, which I never understand. Also, there are some aspects of the basic rules that I think we could have used a bit more explanation to, especially the truths, because the truths play such a huge role in Achtung, Cthulhu 2D20. And I think it's an aspect of the rules mechanics that I think could be very easily misunderstood by players and game masters who are not taking advantage of the back and forth between players and game masters with using truths. So like I said, I would have liked to have seen more than just a couple of paragraphs devoted to that. All in all, this is really an excellent starter set. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I gave the Achtung Cthulhu 2D20 starter set a 9 out of 10. If you have any interest whatsoever in checking out Achtung Cthulhu 2D20, this is an absolute no-brainer. Definitely check it out. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff MacLeod. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.